Hi, good to see you today for Extension Ed Talks. Elaine Johannes is my name. I am an Extension Specialist at K-State Research Extension. My particular content area is family and youth and then community health. And I think we're all curious and wanting to support that. I have the opportunity today to talk with you about families. These are mine. These are pictures of my grandparents, my parents, my son, husband, relatives, cousins, nephews, families of all kinds. And I'm glad that you're going to be thinking about yours today too. So we'll be talking about family as a system. We'll be talking about families in stress, and then we'll also be talking about family strength. And I think that's the most important thing we're going to be learning today as we have time to chat. A couple of things that I think are important is to define what a family is. And we define it as a group of people who care, share, they relate well, and they actually change over time. And that's an interesting thought. The families can actually change, families can grow, and families can learn. And that's really what we're going to be talking about today, how families learn and how families learn to be strong. Sometimes we think of a family as that perfect household, a dad and his two little sons, the mom, the kids. And then we also think about families are really large. Across the whole world. Maybe families are older people, younger people, and families are diverse. Families are wonderful. Families are exciting. Families are difficult. Families can be challenging and families can be tough. So we're going to talk about that too. Toughness is part of what the Kansas household, Kansans, the mothers, sons, the people who've gone through the Dust Bowl, those are things that have made us families that are tight. We are part of a team. But the purpose of whatever the family is are five. The five purposes of why a family actually exists have been studied. There's science about it. Some of you that may know about family and consumer sciences know that that's part of it. Family systems, family health, families of all kinds. But the purposes of what a family is are five. First off, to provide for basic needs. And those basic needs are as big as food, housing, maybe being as a team, working collectively. The second purpose is actually to reproduce, to keep the species going, to keep us alive. That's important. And then the third goal, or I think really associated with that second one, is raising that child. Where best can a child learn and grow and be safe than what a family has? Purpose number 4 is to socialize, bring forth the society that we want to sustain, and people learn that best in the households with their brothers and sisters and parents and aunts, cousins, foster moms. That's purpose 4. Purpose 5 is actually stability. In tough times, in times of change, the family itself provides the stability that we need to thrive. Speaking of those tough times, there's many different systems and many different parts of the environment that really can be tough on us or can actually help us thrive. If we look at the person in the place, that individual is born with certain characteristics and attributes and abilities, then the next environment is what that family, that household, the brothers and sisters, the people that are close to them provide. If we look at the next layer, that's really what the relationships are that we have with schools and businesses, our best friends, maybe parents, helpers. Maybe it's also our faith group, or maybe it's something else like a club membership. The next layer that influences how well that household thrives is really the community. What are the services and supports? Many of us are aware that community health is really essential now. And so it's whatever that community provides to support how that household thrives. Then finally, that outer layer is society, the media, culture, beliefs, and the system from the individual clear out work collectively well, unless something happens like stress that we didn't anticipate, a crisis, or a disaster. Some of the disasters are actually inside. If we look at the 3 realms of adverse childhood experiences, the first realm is if the crisis happens inside, meaning family mental health issues, family substance abuse, abuse going on, homelessness. That's a challenge that families have to often deal with. The second realm of adversity is out in the community. If there's no access to school, really lack of good health care, homelessness, maybe lack of jobs. And then we have to look at what's going on in the bigger world, and that's realm 3. Realm 3 has to do with the disasters we didn't anticipate, the health care that we can't get in the whole community, maybe some of those other issues that affect us across the whole world. So when we think about what the family has to deal with, how they can thrive, but the challenges they have, they can be very isolated within what that family has, but very broad. But for the purpose today, let's look at that family itself. Let's look at the challenges that that household has to go ahead and deal with. So let's talk about the spillover that can happen. If the spillover is too great with stress, then adversity happens and our behaviors aren't of help. The system, the people inside the household are at risk. They don't communicate. We'll come back and talk more about that spillover and how we can actually help families sustain in stress.
Trust Rogers & Associates Insurance to keep your peace of mind through all the seasons in life. Whether you're cozy at home memory making with your family, on an outdoor adventure with the top down, floating on a boat, or in the middle of harvest, we can customize an insurance plan that's perfect for you. For all the seasons, we've got you covered. Call us or visit us online to learn more today.
Hi, welcome back. Elaine Johannes is my name, and we're back at Extension EduTalk, and we're talking about family stress, family system, family strength. Let's recap a little bit. When we finished the earlier time, we talked about spillover. Families under a lot of stress can have a spillover. I think all of us, no matter who we are in the world, know that families sometimes can be stressful. We understand that there's demands. People expect things. Maybe there's just too much time we're close. We want more space. And those are things that we expect to have stress. Then we kind of prepare for those typical things having to do with growing up. The children start going to school. We send somebody off to K-State or Fort Hays State. We kind of expect those kinds of stresses, but then there are things that life hands us that we do not expect. The loss of a job, being ill, losing a farm, feeling lost. Those are those spillover things that really lead to the system family system feeling like we aren't balanced, feeling like we don't succeed. There's actually some theory and science around that. How does this whole thing work, and why do we feel so confused? So I want to introduce you to a theory called the ABCX model of family stress. Quickly, let's take a look at A. A is that stressor, the thing that gets under our skin, the thing that creates disruption that we don't feel very good about. That B is maybe the resource that we have to deal with the stress. Maybe it's being able to cook our own meal with what's in the fridge and don't have to go to the store that night. Or maybe it's a resource that we have a best friend that we can rely on to get to work the next day. Or maybe the resource is, let's go ahead and call grandma because she knows how to listen and how to care. So the resources we have in the family, in the household, and in the community really are of help. So A is not that hard, but then what about variable C? Variable C is what we perceive that stress to mean for us. Maybe it's something we didn't anticipate and really gets to our core. It shakes us. It shakes us to our very being. And working out across the state with Extension, I know working with our families that farm, working with our families who work with our families who may have to think about moving out of town to get to a new job. That can really change how we perceive ourselves and how we feel about what are we doing and what are we able to actually thrive or move towards. So that leads us to X, crises. We feel we don't have a solution. We feel at odds with the world. Families start to maybe not communicate as well, and we feel lost. However, resilience, expertise, coping, and some of those qualities families have can alleviate the crisis. We move through and we feel good about what we were able to get done. But let's look at that big pile up A again. What happens if another crisis, another issue happens and we are not prepared? That's when we get a pile up, doubling down. We double the A, another crisis. We didn't figure out the first one. We're at the second one. They're coming before we can even breathe. How about B? The resources don't exist. They're depleted. People are tired of us trying to get help. And then C is we're feeling like we're lost. We have no solution and we're at risk. What does that lead us? To another crisis, and the cycle continues and piles up, and no wonder people give up. No wonder families give up. No wonder. However, if we as a community reach out and we strengthen what that family has and helps build skill and helps communicate well, then actually we can adapt. Remember earlier I talked about that families can grow and learn? Yes, we can. We can change. We can learn from adversity, and that's how resilience is built. That's how we persist. That's how balance is sustained. The system of how the household works, how people relate, how the children and the parents and the grannies and the aunties and everybody work is a system. We're individuals. We each have ability, but if the system communicates and the system adapts, if the system learns through these tough times, we can grow. Everyone can grow together. It's just maintaining balance. The balance in spite of adversity, the balance in time of toughness, crises that we didn't expect. And balance can be learned. One of the things that I think we've all become aware of is balance in mindfulness. The picture of a glitter jar may seem like, how does that fit? Well, it does. Some of us in public schools, some of us working with kids know that glitter can actually be really helpful in calming us down. So you may be aware in your schools, in your 4-H clubs, in your faith groups that kids are learning how glitter shaken up in a jar, water with glue. As the glitter floats down to the bottom of the jar, calmness happens. Children and adults are finding out that glitter, as long as it doesn't explode on your skin, glitter can be really calming as it floats down and you watch it. Actually, a Yale University study that came out just 2 weeks ago confirmed that breathing is really the best stress relief, mindfulness, and the best way for us to avoid crises. Breathing, deep breathing that's over time. Families can do this as a household together. We could teach each other to breathe. We could teach each other to be mindful. When we come back, we'll learn about strengthening, family strengthening and coping in these times that are tough.
The team at Homestead Assisted Living is a proud supporter of the Hayes community. Located just west of the Sternberg Natural History Museum, Homestead is a warm and welcoming community where residents receive compassionate care from licensed professionals. If you're curious about senior living options for yourself or a loved one, make Homestead your first call. Our kind and courteous staff would love to show you around and answer any questions you may have. Call us today to schedule a tour of Homestead or visit us online at homesteadofhayes.com.
What a girl wants in her home kitchen. Ease of use, flexibility, fun, the latest kitchen design, Frigidaire Professional real stainless steel for fewer finger smudges, a French door refrigerator, convection cooking, and quiet dishwasher. Have the staff at Genuine Appliance in Hayes demonstrate new Frigidaire gallery appliances to find what you want. Genuine Appliance at 1224 East 27th Street in Hayes. Everything a girl wants.
Hi, welcome back. Elaine Johannes is my name again, and we're glad to have you here talking about family system, family stress, and now we're going to talk about family strength. Oh, before I forget, talking about stress, I have my stress ball. As you might guess, being in front of you can be stressful, but it's also exciting. I'm kind of glad to do this. So maybe you have a stress ball. Or maybe you like gardening, the butterflies, the flowers, maybe that's how you breathe. We talked about breathing deeply when we just took a break, but let's talk about other ways that maybe you yourself, the people in your home deal with stress, deal with those pileups. So gardening, nature, furry friends, people that are four-legged and have a tail, oh my goodness, how they handle stress and help us. So these are pictures of my dogs, and I'm glad to share them with you. We talked about you can't really remove all stress. There are rocks in our way, rocks in family life, rocks in our working life, rocks with our health. There are pebbles in our path, and there are certain times where we can't avoid them. But we can tuck around those rocks our resilience, the resilient skills that we can actually learn. Earlier, I talked about how families develop and how families can learn from what's going on within that home and outside. We can learn how we can navigate around the rocks, pebbles in our path, and build skill and build ability for the family to thrive. Resilience is that skill. The ability to bounce back. If adversity happens, before we have a crisis, after the next one, and the pileup effect, we breathe, we recalculate, we appreciate the fact that we have attributes that we've learned from adversity before, and that's the ability to bounce back. Families that are strong have characteristics. And let's visit each of those characteristics and see how we can tuck those in around the pebbles in our path, the boulders in our way. One of the characteristics of a strong family is enjoyable time, being as a household and enjoying being with the people there and having a plan for that. We'll talk about that pretty soon. The next characteristic of a strong family is appreciation and affection. Showing appreciation, showing that you care, being able to compliment somebody, actually in the household you live in. Isn't that amazing? Thank you is not a lost art. It's something that we do. The third characteristic of what a strong family is that ability to communicate in a positive way. The fourth is being well and having the well-being that's beyond just physical health and emotional health, but being part of humanity, being part of the world. Some may call that spiritual health. Some may call that a faith, but it's having something that we believe in beyond ourselves. The next attribute of what a strong family is the ability to manage stress. And we've talked about that quite a bit. What are your skills in managing your stress? Is it a stress ball? Is it gardening? Is it a dog? Is it a best friend? Is it a walk? Or is it as easy as a deep breath? And finally, commitment. The strong family is committed to each other, and that's so important because that gets us through those pileups, the boulders and the pebbles in our path. Let's talk more about how we communicate. I think that's an important attribute, an important skill that we can all learn. So many years ago, there was a family scientist. Olson was his last name, and he developed the circumplex theory of how families can communicate and also be part of a cohesive team, but not so much as part of a team that each of us feel like we're hamstrung, we're overwhelmed, we're enmeshed. So he also did some study about how we could be flexible and how we could adapt. So you'll see in the chart that around the perimeter, the red boxes are families that need to mend. If the cohesion, meaning the enmeshment, the connection, the team, is too extreme, we may not be able to feel like we have our own individual lives. The children, the families may push away or run away if the cohesion is too tight. On the other axis is the family adaptable? Can they be flexible? So again, the red, if a family is too adaptable, too much flex, then what's the point? Families are to be as a team, working towards health, working towards development. And if there's too much flex, we don't feel part of anything. So around the perimeter, the red boxes mean if we live in a family that's too enmeshed, too cohesive, or too adaptable, that's not healthy. We can't handle stress with that. Around those, then you'll see gray. Gray is the family who's just on edge, just the one who maybe we're leaning towards too much, hanging out all the time, or not enough. Or maybe too much flex. We aren't keeping track of how people are doing in the household. How are we feeling? How are we handling stress? So in the gray boxes, maybe there's the family that's been through a crisis, a pileup, and now we need to repair. We need to check back and communicate. But guys, the sweet spot are the green. The boxes in the green, that the family as it grows, the family that develops, the family that does change, now we feel like there are times we want to hang out. We want to be as a team. We want these weekends, little retreats, but no, we want to have some free space. The cohesion is just right. But then also how flexible we are, how adaptable, because we have to learn how to adapt, because you know what? There's going to be a time where the family does change. New people come in, people do leave, life happens, we move on. So the green part of what Olson's circumplex theory was about helps us understand that cohesion is great to a certain extent, flexibility necessary to a certain extent. So let's think about what are the things that we could actually do to strengthen family, strengthen the people in the household, and strengthen the people we care about. Let's move over and actually make some notes to get your ideas going. And you may actually want to get a notepad right now and start making some actual concrete plans to see how can we strengthen the people that we most care about. So let's take a look at how we can build strength, family strength. I mentioned that there are 6 ways that usually we could do it. And by the way, we don't do it all at one time. Talking about a spillover. Building strength could be stressful, so let's not do all of these at one time, but let's give some advice for these top 3. So, family enjoyable time. What are your ideas for having family time that's fun? Oh, here's one. Dog walk. If you don't have a dog, maybe there's some other thing you could take for a walk. Or just going out for a walk and appreciating the fact that we are as a household together. Family enjoyable time. Don't pick something that people do not like to do. You're challenging everybody at one time, but something that's fairly easy that you think will be low risk and high reward. How about number 2? How do we show appreciation to family in the house or family distance? Some of us have become aware that using Zoom is a way to connect with families from far off, to show appreciation, to show love. But how about that compliment? Practicing it. It may feel kind of uncomfortable, but actually practicing a compliment for, thanks for doing the wash today, golly, and thanks for mowing the yard. This last one, we spend a little time talking about the circumplex approach and how important it is to be adaptable, but also to be part of a team and to show communication that does both of those. And one of the things that we can all do is listen. Listen. The teenagers in the household, the family members who don't seem to talk as much, they're listening to us. They're watching us. They're learning how families work. They're learning how to strengthen families that they will have. We need to listen to them. We need to show positive communication. We don't judge, because in tough times, listening, caring, and having some enjoyable time builds what the family has to do to grow. There's a few more of these we aren't going to cover today. I encourage you to write those on your notepad, one at a time. Think about how you can also help family system, deal with family stress, and be strong. Have a good day.